Welcome, Wolfpack fans, and welcome to another edition of Wolfpack Watch. This is the after South Paulding Spartan game of Wolfpack Watch. I'm your host, Doug Wood, and with me, as usual, Coach Jarod Bryant to recap the game and look forward to our next game. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you for having me.
Our victory over South Paulding at South Paulding, 38-13 in a dominating fashion. Coach, you're now 2-0 in North Paulding history, undefeated. How do you feel?
I feel good. That says I've got a really good assistant coaching staff and got some really good players that's been doing their job, so I'm excited about it.
The 38-13 victory that you had over South Paulding, did it go pretty much as planned? Is that what you thought? We talked last week how you thought South Paulding was a little bit better than they were last year and you were a little bit concerned about the talent level they had, yet we have a 25-point win. Tell us your thoughts on that.
Well, you know, we're still making mistakes, you know, that we don't need to make. You know, we allowed South Paulding to stay in the game with us early on when we should have gone ahead, excuse me. We should have gone ahead and put them away early on in the first quarter. But, you know, we made some mistakes on the field on both sides of the ball that allowed them to stay in the game. And that's something we can't do against a good East Paulding team this week.
So the mistakes that you speak of, we just talked before this interview. You talked about the scripted plays that you have on offense that you like to run. We had, what, 5 false start penalties in the first couple drives. Tell us how that affects the game and your game plan.
Well, it affected a lot. You know, Coach Nance and I sit down together, our offensive coordinator, and do a script of 10 or 11 plays to start the game, what we want to see, different formations that we want to run, and different play concepts. And, you know, we had those plays scripted to run, and then we line up and we're behind the sticks from the very get-go because we've got a false start penalty, and, you know, then we get a couple of yards, and then we have another penalty. So it's just, you know, it's just stuff that disrupted the game, which we train our kids all the time in practice for sudden change situations, things that happen in the game that we're not prepared for. And we definitely were not prepared for, you know, 4 or 5 false start penalties in the first quarter.
I was going to say, to start your drive 1st and 20, that kind of kills any momentum. We start off the game. We don't score on the first possession. The second possession, we go down the field and we score a touchdown. Talk about that. I believe that one went to Etheridge from Malmgren. Talk about that play. Yeah,
we've been playing 8 receivers. You know, we play 4 guys, and then the next series we put a new 4 in, and then, you know, hopefully by the time we get to the second half, then we'll wear down the defensive backs and, you know, playing that many receivers that we feel like can go on the field at any time. And, you know, Colin was just that was his series. It was his second series of the game, and we ran a corner route to him, and Ross made a great throw. The offensive line gave good protection, and then Colin made a great catch and got both feet in bounds. So, you know, that was a really good drive, and that was the way the first drive was supposed to go.
And then right after that, we kicked to South Paulding. They actually, I believe, take a penalty on the kickoff, so they're deep in their own territory. And then lo and behold, what happens after that? We get a fumble, a recovery, and Matthew Hoffman scores a defensive touchdown. Talk about that.
Hey, you know, they were trying to throw a behind-the-line screen pass, and Matthew, you know, deflected the pass, hit the guy, fumbled, picked it up, walked in the end zone because we didn't hear a whistle because we didn't know if it was a forward pass or a lateral. And then it was a lateral, and they gave him a touchdown. So, you know, again, for the second week in a row, we've got a player that's got, you know, gotten a touchdown tattoo and turnover teeth on the same play, which is great. I love those. Those are easy play calls. you can score a defensive touchdown and just trot the extra point team out there to kick an extra point and be up 14-0 on what I thought was a good South Paulding team going in.
And then we get a couple field goals on our next few possessions. We're up 20-0, and I believe that's when they first scored their points to make it 20-7. Our first points given up in your career so far. Did we break down on that play, or did they actually just make a good play?
They made a good play, but we, you know, our secondary, we had a kind of a busted coverage in the secondary, which is going to happen. You know, I mean, everybody's not going to play perfect all the time, but you know, that's something that we made adjustment with at halftime after that particular play, and they lined up that kind of formation again. That we had an audible, we had to check in the line of scrimmage that we were going to check out of the coverage we were in and check into a more advantageous coverage to combat that formation.
Then we score another touchdown to Dabbelt. I believe that was the pass from Malmgren to Dabbelt, and then we go for the 2-point conversion and get that to go up 28-13 at that time. I believe right before halftime, we kick a, 44-yard field goal?
44-yard
from
field goal.
Travelstead to make it 31-13 at halftime. And then after halftime, it seemed to be status quo. We scored one touchdown early, and the game turned out to be a defensive stand after that. Not a lot of offense by either team after that. We walk away with a 38-13 victory, 2-0. Now we go into the East Paulding game feeling good about the team so far. I know we have a lot of things to clean up, a lot of improvement to make. As you always say, it's improvement every time we get out on that field. But talk a little bit about finishing that game and then going into this week.
You know, I think we played, you know, 2 Paulding County teams, so, you know, anytime you play a rivalry game, then, you know, the stakes are going to be a little bit higher. And coming into East Paulding, I know that's going to be a big rivalry game as well. We just got to try to keep our players focused, and, you know, like we always say, you know, every play, every day, every week, and we got to try to keep them focused going into a good team like East Paulding and playing them. Very well coached team, athletes all over the field. You know, we're going to have to keep our heads level and focus on what we can do in football-wise and not really focus on the rivalry. I know that's hard to do as kids, but you know, I think we've got a good chance to come in if we execute and do what we're supposed to do offensively and defensively. I think we've got a good chance to win.
Talk about the hype concerning this game. It's here in the Den this week at 7:30 against our main rival, East Paulding. You've only been here for a short time. This rivalry has been huge going back for years. North Paulding, I believe we're in our 11th or 12th year of existence, and every football game against this school has been huge. There's been a lot of smack talk. There's been a lot of pregame hype, and then it all pours out on the field when these two teams get on the field and start letting the emotions out. Are you trying to coach your boys about what leads into this week as far as the smack talk is concerned, try to keep a level head, and also keep your emotions in check when we get on that field Friday night?
Well, you know, we had a little bit of that this past week too. You know, South Paulding, some of their players actually texted and tweeted a few of our players about how they were going to, you know, do different things to us on the field. And, you know, one of them they sent it to was Jordan Benzial, which is not the one to send it to. But, you know, I anticipate there being some smack talk from both sides, but we're going to try to coach our kids into not getting caught up in that, just to focus on the game itself. And, you know, but with social media, I mean, all you can do is coach your kids and tell them what not to do and what to do. And, you know, but with social media, I mean, you know, it is what it is. And, you know, I hope that it doesn't come down to that. I mean, I don't have the Twitter, I don't have the Bookface, I don't have the Snapchat, I don't have any of that stuff for those particular reasons. And the kids joke with me all the time when I call it Bookface and Twitter. But, you know, there's a reason I don't have all of that, and I don't read newspaper articles. You know, I don't read that stuff. I just focus on my job as a football coach, and I'm hopefully that'll rub off on some of our players, and they can just focus on their job as a football player and not get caught up in all the pregame hoopla.
One more thing before we let you go. Going back to the South Paulding game, let's talk a little bit about the players of the game. On offense, we had number 5, quarterback Ross Malmgren, who had an outstanding game. He was the player of the game on offense. On defense, our player of the game was number 45, linebacker Matthew Hoffman. And on special teams, number 20, Jarod Ray. Give a shout out to each of those 3 for the game they had.
Well, you know, Matthew, you know, did a great job, you know, playing outside linebacker, having, you know, coming in with 10 total tackles, and then, you know, a pass deflection, forced fumble from recovery, and a touchdown. I mean, it's kind of like Jacob Amos last week. I mean, that was our defensive stalwart for that game. We had several other players that made a lot of tackles and some sacks and put some pressure on the quarterback, and you know, a couple of interceptions by some of our guys in our secondary. But as a coaching staff, you know, for this week, we picked Matthew Hoffman. And then, you know, Jarod Ray, you know, we've been working on that reverse every day in practice for the last several weeks and really hadn't had an opportunity to run it. We had one kickoff return against Paulding County, and it was, you know, it was kind of a squib kick, and You know, the scrimmage game, we only had one kickoff return during that time. That's the coach and I decided just to do one for safety reasons. So we've been waiting for this for a chance to turn Jarod loose on a reverse, and the guys made a great job. Did a great job of blocking on the perimeter. They set the wall up on the 30 and did a great job of sealing the edge for him. And once Jarod hit the edge, he was gone. And you know, also had several catches on offense for us too. It's a big part of what we do offensively. And then Ross, you know, comes in, has a great game. You know, 22 of 30 for 301 yards and 2 touchdowns are the stats that everybody sees. But as a head coach, I look at, all right, he didn't put us behind the sticks by taking sacks, and he didn't turn the ball over by throwing interceptions. So as a head coach, you know, those are the stats that I most look for. Is, you know, we talked about that the week before about not taking the sacks and throwing the ball away instead of trying to make a play when there's not one to be made. And you know, our offensive line did a great job protecting them this week, and then you know, Ross did a good job of getting the ball out on time and not taking the sacks. And we got a bunch of plays for 2nd and 3rd and 10, but we don't have many for 2nd and 3rd and 20.
Welcome to the Player of the Week segment here at Wolfpack Watch. With me now are the 3 players of the game from the South Paulding Spartan game on the road here last Friday night. First, number 45, defensive linebacker Matthew Hoffman. Number 20, special teams player and wide receiver. He's the special teams player of the week, number 20, Jarod Ray. And our offensive player of the week, you know him as the general, number 5, Ross Malmgren. We'll talk to Matthew first. Matthew, how'd you feel during that game Friday night?
I felt comfortable. I thought we did good by executing and getting everyone to the ball, and we communicated well on the defense. Against that fast-paced offense, we were able to control them and play defense.
So for Matthew's award on Friday night, he had 6 tackles, 4 of them solo, 2 assisted. He had 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, and that recovery was for a 4-yard touchdown. Tell me about scoring that touchdown, your first varsity touchdown, I assume.
Yes, sir. I was kind of confused at first, wasn't sure if it was a live ball, and when I realized it was, I picked it up and was able to just take a few steps to the end zone.
Looking back at that game and the previous game, you're being counted on this year as a junior to play more in the defense. How does that make you feel?
It's not bad. I mean, I just do whatever I need to do for my team to help us win and to get us wherever we need to go.
Now, last week during our segment, I was interviewing Jacob Amos, and I was asking him about the linebacker crew and the need to try to pick up each other. You guys seem to be playing pretty well as a unit right now. Would you say that's the case?
Yeah, we're young, but we play together and we communicate well, and we do our assignments.
Last question. We're going into a big rivalry game this week here at the Den against East Paulding. What does that mean to you?
I'm excited. We don't like them at all. We don't like them. So we're going to go out and play our hardest game.
All right. Well, thank you, Matthew, for being with us. Hand the mic over to Jarod. Jarod, welcome. For the special teams player of the game on Friday night against South Paulding, Jarod had 3 kickoff returns for 143 yards, including a 93-yard touchdown return, and also had 3 catches for 43 yards on offense. Jarod, how'd you feel about that game Friday night?
Felt pretty good. Felt like I did better than I did against PC, but.
Tell us about that 93-yard kickoff return. How exciting was that to break clear and run down the sidelines?
Oh, very exciting. I love running down the sideline. Very exciting.
And all the way to the house. That was actually a very exciting play. Got the team pumped up. Now, I believe that was our 2nd or 3rd touchdown of the game, and it really got the team going. Actually, that was the 3rd because Matthew had scored the 2nd one. You're being counted on this year as a junior to play a lot of snaps, both in the receiving game and on special teams. How does that make you feel this year?
Pretty good. I feel a little nervous every game because it's first year playing varsity, so I think I'll do very good this year.
And both you and Matthew, you got another year after this. What do you look forward to as far as the rest of this year is concerning, and then next year as a senior?
Just trying to get on the map for, get colleges and, just go out there and do good this season.
And then I'll ask you the same question I just asked Matthew. How about this game on Friday night against East Paulding here in the Den? How do you feel about it?
I feel very excited because that's the team I transferred to come here, and they've been doing a lot of smack talking. So.
Well, as usual with the
sir.
East Paulding Raiders, we get a lot of smack talk. This will probably be the biggest smack talk week on Twitter in between both schools. So check that out if you get a chance.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jarod, for joining
you.
us. Hand it over to Ross. And with me now is quarterback, the general, number 5, Ross Malmgren. His stats for Friday night: 22 of 30 for 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, and most importantly, as Coach Bryant said, no interceptions and no sacks taken. Welcome, Ross.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And as you have started your senior season, 2 games down, how are you feeling about the season so far?
I'm feeling good. We've had a lot of young guys come in this year and had to step in big roles, and I think we've gotten better each week, and we're going to keep getting better.
Tell me a little bit about your mindset relative to the fact that this is now your 3rd year starting. How comfortable do you feel out there, even though you're learning somewhat of a new offense, new coaching staff and stuff like that? How comfortable do you feel out there leading this team?
Yes, sir. I feel really comfortable. I know I just got to do my job. I know my offensive line's going to block and our receivers are going to get open, so I just got to do my job.
And talk about that receiving core just a little bit. You're dealing with a lot of new players. I know you have dabbled. McGuire's back this year for the first time in a couple years. You got Zion every now and then, but you've got a lot of young receivers that you're throwing the ball to for the first time. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel good. Those young guys have came in and done a great job. Guys like Jarod and Colin Etheridge, Tanner, Briley, those guys give us a lot more depth than we've ever had, and it makes me feel good as a quarterback knowing I got a lot of guys to throw to.
From the South Paulding game, did you just feel that comfort level in the pocket? I mean, you had a couple pressures I saw, a couple times you ran. You even had an option run, I thought, that I saw early on in the game. Talk about that. Talk about the game plan in general. Did it go to script, or did you have to go off script some?
Yes, sir. Well, our offensive line, first of all, did a great job Friday night. They're another group that keep getting better and better. So they allowed me to stay comfortable throughout the game and just put the ball where I got to put it.
This is your senior year. 2 games in, you've got 8 regular season games and then hopefully a slew of playoff games afterwards. Any nostalgia setting in for you, realizing that this is the last time you're going to play high school football?
Yes, sir, for sure. It's crazy. It's going by fast. Every week's going by faster and faster. I'm just looking to soak it all in, just make it last as long as possible.
Absolutely, and I think back to our 6th grade year where we took home a state championship game in the middle school that year. That was awesome, and that was the first exposure that I had ever had to you and your father as a coach. Talk about, one more question here, talk about the rivalry game we have coming up with East. You've already played in 2 of these games,
yep,
and you've got a 3rd one coming up here at home. How crazy do you think this is going to get? How much smack talk's going on already, and you looking forward to it?
Yep, well, I know it's going to be crazy. First of all, knowing I've played in it the last 2 years. I haven't seen any smack talk going on yet, but I'm sure there has been somewhere. And I think the main thing is we just got to stay under control and just worry about our assignments. Rivalry games, guys can get crazy, get really hyped up. We just got to do our job.
Well, it's scheduled to be a pretty highly attended game, as all East Paulding games here are. So we look forward to the 3 of you guys out on the field Friday night and hopefully bring home a victory against our rival in East Paulding next week. I thank each of you guys for joining me.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Congratulations on your Player of the Week awards. Last thing, I want to give a shout out. First of all, Coach talked about the other interception. I believe that was by number 24, Zion Hawkins,
Yep.
An interception in the end zone. Props to him. Want to give props to our fans who traveled really well out to South Paulding. Redneck Night, the paint crew, the student section, and the band did a great job. This Friday night, here in the Den, I believe it is a whiteout, if I'm not mistaken. Our fans are going to be rowdy, including our student section. Our band's going to be loud. All of our side's going to be yelling at the other side. East is going to come out in numbers as well. Let's try to make sure that we take the emotion to them and make sure we get this game as a W when we walk out of here. Coach, I want to thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to Friday night here against East as Coach Bryant's first rivalry game against East Paulding takes place. 2-0, looking for 3-0. We're heading closer to region every week as we get going. Thank you guys for joining us. Thanks, Jim.
Appreciate it. Go Pack.